But when at last the Valar learned that the Noldor had indeed passed out of Aman, and were come back into Middle-earth, they arose and began to set forth in deeds those counsels which they had taken, in thought for the redress of the evils of Melkor. Then Manwë bade Yavanna and Niena to put forth all their powers of growth and healing, and they put forth all their powers upon the trees. But the tears of Niena availed not to heal their mortal wounds, and for a long while Yavanna sang alone in the shadows. Yet, even as hope failed and her song faltered, Telperion bore at last upon a leafless bough one great flower of silver, and Lorelin a single fruit of gold. These Yavanna took, and then the trees died, and their lifeless stems stand yet in Valinor, a memorial of vanished joy. But the flower and the fruit Yavanna gave to Aule, and Manwë hallowed them. And Aule and his people made vessels to hold them and preserve their radiance, as is said in the Silmarillion, the Song of the Sun and Moon. These vessels the Valar gave to Varda, that they might become lamps of heaven, outshining the ancient stars, being nearer to Arda, and she gave them power to traverse the lower regions of Ilmen, and set them to voyage upon appointed courses above the girdle of the earth, from west unto the east, and to return. These things the Valar did, recalling in their twilight the darkness of the lands of Arda, and they resolved now to illumine Middle-earth, and with light to hinder the deeds of Melkor. For they remembered the Avari that remained by the waters of their awakening, and they did not utterly forsake the Noldor in exile. And Manwë knew also that the hour of the coming of men was drawn nigh. And it is said indeed, that even as the Valar made war upon Melkor for the sake of the Quendi, so now for that time they forbore for the sake of the Hildor, the aftercomers, the younger children of Ilúvatar. For so grievous had been the hurts of Middle-earth in the war upon Utumno, that the Valar feared lest even worse should now befall, whereas the Hildor should be mortal, and weaker than the Quendi to withstand fear and tumult. Moreover, it was not revealed to Manwë where the beginning of men should be, north, south, or east. Therefore the Valar sent forth light, but made strong the land of their dwelling. Isil, the Sheen, the Vanyar of old named the moon, flower of Telperion and Valinor, and Anar, the fire golden, fruit of Lorelin, they named the sun. But the Noldor named them also Rana, the wayward, and Vasa, the heart of fire, that awakens and consumes. For the sun was set as a sign for the awakening of men and the waning of the elves, but the moon cherishes their memory. The maiden whom the Valar chose from among the Maiar to guide the vessel of the sun was named Arien, and he that steered the island of the moon was Tilion. In the days of the trees, Arien had tended the golden flowers in the gardens of Vanna, and watered them with the bright dews of Lorelin. But Tilion was a hunter of the company of Arome, and he had a silver bow. He was a lover of silver, and when he would rest, he forsook the woods of Arome, and going into Lorien, he lay in dream by the pools of Este, in Telperion's flickering beams, and he begged to be given the task of tending forever the last flower of silver. Arien the maiden was mightier than he, and she was chosen because she had not feared the heats of Lorelin, and was unhurt by them, being from the beginning a spirit of fire, whom Melkor had not deceived nor drawn to his service. Too bright were the eyes of Arien for even the Eldar to look on, and leaving Valinor, she forsook the form and raiment, which like the Valar she had worn there, and she was as a naked flame, terrible in the fullness of her splendor. Isil was first wrought and made ready, and first rose into the realm of the stars, and was the elder of the new lights, as was Telperion of the trees. Then for a while the world had moonlight, and many things stirred and woke that had waited long in the sleep of Yavanna. The servants of Morgoth were filled with amazement, but the elves of the outer lands looked up in delight. And even as the moon rose above the darkness in the west, Fingolfin let blow his silver trumpets and began his march into Middle-earth, and the shadows of his host went long and black before them. Teleon had traversed the heavens 7 times, and thus was in the furthest east when the vessel of Arien was made ready. Then Anar arose in glory, and the first dawn of the sun was like a great fire upon the towers of the Pelori. The clouds of Middle-earth were kindled, and there was heard the sound of many waterfalls. Then indeed Morgoth was dismayed, and he descended into the uttermost depths of Angband, and withdrew his servants, sending forth great reek and dark cloud to hide his land from the light of the day-star. Now Varda purposed that the 2 vessels should journey in Ilmen and ever be aloft, but not together. Each should pass from Valinor into the east and return, the one issuing from the west as the other turned from the east. Thus the first of the new days were reckoned after the manner of the trees, from the mingling of the lights when Arien and Teleon passed in their courses, above the middle of the earth. But Teleon was wayward and uncertain in speed, and held not to his appointed path, and he sought to come near to Arien, being drawn by her splendor, though the flame of Anar scorched him, and the island of the moon was darkened. Because of the waywardness of Teleon, therefore, and yet more because of the prayers of Lorien and Este, who said that sleep and rest had been banished from the earth, and the stars were hidden, Varda changed her counsel, and allowed a time wherein the world should still have shadow and half-light. Anar rested therefore a while in Valinor, lying upon the cool bosom of the outer sea, and evening, the time of the descent and resting of the sun, was the hour of greatest light and joy in Aman. But soon the sun was drawn down by the servants of Ulmo, and went then in haste under the earth, and so came unseen to the east, and there mounted the heavens again, lest night be overlong and evil walk under the moon. But by Anar the waters of the outer sea were made hot and glowed with colored fire, and Valinor had light for a while after the passing of Arien. Yet as she journeyed under the earth and drew towards the east, the glow faded, and Valinor was dim, and the Valar mourned then most for the death of Lorelin. At dawn the shadows of the mountains of defense lay heavy on the blessed realm. Varda commanded the moon to journey in like manner, and passing under earth, to arise in the east, but only after the sun had descended from heaven. But Teleon went with uncertain pace, as yet he goes, and was still drawn towards Arien, as he shall ever be, so that often both may be seen above the earth together, or at times it will chance that he comes so near that his shadow cuts off her brightness, and there is a darkness amid the day. Therefore by the coming and going of Anar, the Valar reckoned the days thereafter, until the change of the world. For Teleon tarried seldom in Valinor, but more often would pass swiftly over the western land, over Avathar, or Ahriman, or Valinor, and plunge in the chasm beyond the outer sea, pursuing his way alone amid the grots and caverns at the roots of Arda. There he would often wander long, and late would return.